Namaste everyone, my name is Vaishali Shah. I welcome each one of you to our session on Hindu culture and lifestyle. Today we have a speaker who's going to talk about Sanskrit on the Silk Route. So let me welcome Shashibala ji. Namaste Shashibala ji.
Namaste.
आपका बहुत स्वागत है. Shashibala ji, हमारा tradition है that before we start our session, we start with a small prayer. So I would like to request you to do a small prayer and then we'll continue with our session.
Yeah. So first of all, I offer my prayers to Goddess Saraswati because we all in India, we always wish for a purity of knowledge. So, Ya kundendu tushar har dhavalam, Ya shubhravastra vritam, Ya vina varadanda mandita kara, Ya Shweta Padmasana, Ya Brahmachyuta Shankara Prabhritibhir Devai Sada Vandita, Samam Pata Saraswati Bhagavati Nishesha Jadyapaham.
Thank you so much, Shashid ji. Before I start, I would like to read your introduction to our audience so that they know something about you. Professor Dr. Shashibala ji is a renowned Indologist, Dean to Bhavan's Munshi Center of Indology, she's also Indology in Delhi. She's also the recipient of highest civilian state award conferred by the President of Mongolia, the Order of the Polar Star. She's the member mission of High Level Committee Indian Knowledge Systems Ministry of Education. She is the president of International Council of Cultural Studies in India. She's also the executive member at the International Academy of Indian Culture. She's also a member at Anusandhan Prakoshtha Bharatiya Shikshan Mandal. She's the founding member of International Buddhist Confederation and various other organizations. Formerly, she was visiting professor at National Museum Institute, guest professor at Bristol and Ural Federal Universities and consultant at IGNCA. She specializes in India's cultural contribution to the world, especially Sanskrit in global perspective, history of arts, Buddhism, and cross-cultural connections across political boundaries. She has published 25 books and 105 research papers. She has also she has been organizing conferences, curating exhibitions, documenting Indian cultural relics abroad, traveling widely, drafting and offering courses, giving TV interviews, and many more such things. The courses drafted on holistic science in Sanskrit and Indian knowledge traditions for Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan are approved by AICTE. She's a recipient of several national and international honors and awards. Her actually profile is so huge that I had to ask her to, shorten it up a bit because of her contribution to Indian knowledge. So I think if you want to know something more about her, I think you should visit her website and the other work she has been doing. So Shashibala ji, let's start with our conversation about your life. Like, how did you start and where do you come from originally?
I come from the Himalayas.
Oh.
There is a small town. At that time when I was small, that there was no state like called Himachal Pradesh. So it was a small town. There were just two schools, one for girls and one for boys. So there was no exposure to the outside world. But my father visited Mongolia in 1967. And that time I was a small child and not, you can say small child, but just 11 years. And that was the first time I came to know about the foreign lands and Indian culture. So since then I have been told by my father that what kind of Indian culture, how Indian culture has contributed immensely to the world. So I wanted to be a doctor, but my father said, no, doctors are made for scholars. So scholars are at the top, so you have to be a scholar. He washed my brain in such a way that everything, the whole world works for a scholar. if you are sick, there is a doctor. You need a machine, there is an engineer. Everything is made for, the world is made for a scholar. So
Lovely, interesting. So which subject did you take and which university did you go to?
When you talk about the university, I was a student of the Himachal Pradesh University doing my graduation, master's, MPhil and PhD all. And you will find another strange thing in me that because I came from a small town, so I did my honors in English and my master's in Sanskrit. And my MPhil thesis was on grammatical text from Indonesia, and PhD thesis was on Japan, Indian culture, especially the Vedic deities and their comparative study, that what kind of details do you find in our literature and what kind of representations and formal manifestations are there of the Vedic deities, and we don't find those in our country. There are many such things.
That is very interesting because your profile is quite varied and very interesting in the sense that you have touched upon so many different subjects and so many different avenues of life. So which subject was your favorite, and where your major research happened then in all these years? Which topic did you concentrate on the most?
The whole of Asia is so fascinating for me because of many reasons. I can't give you the details right away. But my PhD thesis was in Japan. So Japan became my first area of research. But I've been working on many countries, not only Japan. But it is basically the Indian culture that has contributed to peace, harmony, friendship, compassion, and they gave a new dimension to society, to politics, in the field of philosophy, arts, architecture, literature, performing arts, in every field of knowledge, how India contributed. What is there today in Japan or in China or in Indonesia or in Thailand? So I keep going, I keep traveling and documenting and doing my research. And intentionally, I didn't do any job the whole of my life. That is why I could do so much of work, because there was no work pressure on me.
That is
only recently, just 5 years ago, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan invited me to work on their platform. So I'm doing a job when people get retirement. So it's not a job. It's not a job. It's a mission and a passion for me.
That is so true, so interesting. So tell us something about today's topic. Like, why did you, think about researching on this topic of Sanskrit on the Silk Route? First of all, please tell us something. What is Silk Route?
Yeah, you see, in Indian education system, in our books to students, what we teach is that Hyun-sang came to India in search of knowledge, in search of texts. He carried this and that. So it's a huge description. And others are Just Fayan, Itsing, Fashian. There are just a few, but there are hundreds and hundreds of Indians. There is a historical record of 200 and more than 250 Indian scholars who dedicated their lives, or sacrificed, I would say, their lives to travel to different countries and going to China. And because China has best preserved the record, so that we can find, we can search, we can know the history, that who were the people and what did they do. And Silk Route, the so-called, it is a misnomer actually. It was not a Silk Route actually, it was a trade route from China to Rome, and in between there are many routes coming to India. So India had connections from in many directions, and many parts of India. People were traveling from here to there and there to here, and even Japanese and Korean, they used to come to China, and they did a lot of work. There are so many manuscripts, because whosoever the acharyas were invited by the Chinese emperors, whenever there were any kind of problems, it could be political, it could be social, it could be because there were pandemics, and even our acharyas were controlling pandemics. They were giving India, they introduced Indian traditional medicine there. They had their own medical system, but they have taken a lot from India, and till now they have preserved the prescriptions of the Vedas from ancient times. And there is so much there. But how did they travel? What kind of manuscript did they carry with them? But in spite, moreover, one should know that what kind of perils, what kind of dangers were there, and why it is called a route. It is not a road, because there were so many difficulties on the road. Traveling from India to China was very difficult because of a huge, vast desert. People had to, who were traveling to or from India, they had to stay hungry and thirsty for days. Even Hyun Sang, he fell unconscious many times because he did not have a drop of water to drink. I have traveled on the Silk Route, and when I was traveling, I was so, I can't say what kind of emotions did I have. Even I am having goosebumps even now, that when I visited these places, if I show you the desert, what kind of desert is there? Oh my God, today we are traveling by air-conditioned car, staying in hotels, having good food. We are telling them what kind of food do we need, what suits us. But in that times, what was there? And these acharyas were traveling days and nights, sometimes even remaining thirsty and hungry, and sometimes their horses died. They had so much of perils on their journey. Many of them died. Nobody knows that who are the people who sacrificed their lives. There is no record of many hundreds and hundreds of them. When I visited these places, I touched the soil, I touched the small pebbles, I brought pebbles, the small pieces, stones from there as souvenirs, that this is the land that was nurtured, that was given the systems, all kinds of system that was, and Indian culture was so much flourishing. And when there was Indian culture flourishing, there were no wars, there were no conflicts. People were taught not to be greedy. People were taught not to be full of ego. And when you don't have ego, when you don't have conflicts, when you don't have war, you can spend your time in real development. Now, today, the whole world is spending a huge amount of all kinds of resources in having peace, and still there is no peace. So this is very important. This is so important. And I worked on Kumarajiva, one of the Indian acharyas, whose father was a Kashmiri Pandit, and he was from a very high profile family, but he left the family, the cozy comfort of his family. Today, nobody wants to leave that. Everybody wants to be in a comfortable zone. But these people who embraced discomforts for the propagation of Dharma, not for themselves, what were they gaining? They were not gaining anything. It was they who were giving. Whatever they had was meant to be given to the people, not for any selfish ends. They were just giving for the welfare of the people, for upliftment, for their development. So there is so much of sacrifice. There are so many stories. Now we call them stories, but think what kind of life these people were living. So Kumarajiva's father traveled. He became a monk before setting off for his journey to China. And on the way, there was a small kingdom called Kucha. When the king of Kucha, he heard about his knowledge, then he stopped him, because they were searching for a suitable match for the princess, and it was very difficult to find it. And he could be the best match for the princess because she was such a devout Buddhist, and she was so knowledgeable. So he was insisted to leave the monk's robes, and he was forced to marry the princess. See, once somebody who has become a monk, he had to marry because of the pressure, and he thought that he could do better and more for the people. So he sacrificed, and he married to a princess of Kucha. So their son is named as Kumarajiva, Kumarayana, and this Jiva. Jiva was the name of the princess. So, and he is the one who has propagated, who translated the Sanskrit text into such a language, such a Sanskrit, from Sanskrit to Chinese. It's so fluid, it's so easily understandable, that today the Japanese accept that 75,000 temples in Japan. Out of that, there are 65,000 which are based on the philosophy of the texts that were translated by Kumarajiva. And Kumarajiva is from Kucha from the Silk Road. So there are many such reasons. I can keep on and on giving you many reasons why I chose that. And in India, people do not know much about it. In European countries, yes, there is some knowledge, but it's not commonly knowledge.
Yeah, but
It's
let's
not commonly.
understand which is the geographical and political location, because even we want to make people aware, they need to know which location are we talking about, you know.
Yeah, shall I show you a map? Okay, just a minute.
Let me give you access. Yeah, now
Okay.
you will be able to share. Yeah.
Screen share.
Yes, yes.
Can you see this? Can you see my presentation here?
Yes, yes, I can see.
Yes. So this is the area about which I'm talking. You can see this red line, and from people were traveling from here to there towards China. It's blocked. Just a minute. Yes. Now this red line you can see. And this is the area about which I'm talking. So it connects India to China. And these are two routes. One is the southern route and one is the northern route. And they bifurcate first at Kashgar. And Kashgar is a city that is still mentioned as Kashi in modern Chinese maps. And on the other side, there is a cave complex that is called Dunhuang, that is the treasure of China. On the walls, if you just talk about the walls of this cave complex, there is 25 kilometers of paintings of Buddhist texts in this cave complex. So you can imagine the scale, how Buddhism contributed towards development of various kinds of art and thought in China. So this is the area about which I'm talking. They had to, why it is called route? Because one point I told you is the danger of that is the geographical problems, but other was the thieves, because people knew that when these people travel, they carry gold, and they used to carry gold with them. So there were robbers on their way, and they had to keep changing and be careful that to be saved from the robbers. So there were two problems, major problems. So that they had to take different, and there were many routes that were connecting. Even there is from Srinagar to Khotan. I wrote a research paper on this, that from Srinagar in Kashmir was connected with Khotan, and from Khotan it's amazing that a rug has been discovered with Krishna legends. Krishna can be found from the this westernmost part of this area to Japan. Krishna legend. And this is, I wanted to show you what kind of desert is there, how people were traveling, how difficult it would have been for them to travel. Yeah.
Yes, very interesting. So then what was your journey like? How did you start? Like from which point?
Yeah, I started, actually I reached China. There were some programs there in different cities. So after completing or finishing all of them, then I reached this point, that is Dunhuang. And from Dunhuang, we took cars and started traveling. First, we went to the southern route. We came up to Kashgar. Kashgar, the border of Kashgar is just around 100 kilometers from Pakistan. Kashgar, the city was, I was so shocked when I entered the Kashgar city, that a city that was full of monasteries and knowledge and all kinds of knowledge was there. Manuscripts are discovered from there. A lot was being done. And today, when I entered Kashgar, there were so many shops of only knives, from smallest, very tiny knives to the huge ones. Who were the people who are buying all these knives? The city that was preserving and promoting Sanskrit and manuscripts are translated, and what is happening now, there were all knives and knives, there were so many shops there. So from there we took the turn, and return journey began from Kashgar, and visiting several places again on the northern Silk Road, and we came up to Shanshan, Urumqi, and from there I took my journey by air.
But then how did these scriptures reach there? Because that is also another question it's getting in my mind, that what, I mean, how, because they are from India, if the scriptures were written in India, so how did they reach there?
You see, here I'm showing you a painting of an Indian Acharya. There are, as I said, there is a written history, recorded history of 250 Indian Acharyas, and also more than 100 Chinese who came to India in search of texts. So what were they doing is that they were carrying texts with them from India, and on their way, they were staying in different kingdoms situated on the Silk Road. And on this side, you can see a cave complex. So this is Kizil Cave. You can see tiny caves all over this hilltop. And when they were carrying these manuscripts, on their way, there were many centers of translation also, especially Khotan was a huge center of translation. In Khotan, people used to come from China to collect Indian manuscripts, and also they were working together to translate, because Indians who were going there, they didn't have access to Chinese language of that standard that they could translate. So there were translators, there were interpreters, and they used to work with huge number of Chinese and Indian monks. So Chinese were more. There were sometimes 3,000 monks used together, and emperors used to preside over to finalize the translation of a text. So that is, whenever there were many reasons to take this text. As I said, that emperors, whenever they had any problem, they invited Indian acharyas, or they sent missions to India to bring texts for recitation, for chanting, for performing different kinds of rituals and ceremonies. So there were, it's a very detailed study on that what kind of texts were taken by them and why. So these were the texts written on palm leaf or burj patra or paper manuscripts that were taken once the monasteries were invaded by Islamic invaders. Then all these monasteries were ruined, but because this is a desert, so because there was no moisture, so these texts could be preserved for centuries under desert. Sand buried monasteries are discovered by many scholars from many countries, and they are still there. So they are very fragmentary because of two reasons. The Sanskrit manuscripts that are discovered from there are fragmentary. The one reason is because the monasteries were destroyed and they went under sand, so sand buried monasteries. And the other reason is when local people came to know, when the explorations began, when archaeologists from many countries reached there and they realized that they are very important, then they began to tear the manuscript and sell them page by page. I'll show you a few manuscripts, how they are discovered.
Yes, please. Yeah, please continue with your presentation.
Okay, so here, as I said, that for prolonging life, to be happy in life, to be safe, to be peaceful, so the masses, because of pandemic, there is a history about India, because these days, because of the pandemic, I really love to talk about how Indian acharyas controlled pandemic, and it's written in their historical chronicles that once an Indian acharya, when he reached there, he presented as a gift to a Chinese emperor something round. They don't know, they have not given the name, what was that, something ball like thing, and the emperor was not much impressed. He said, okay, when he has given something, after all, it's a gift from India, he kept it with great respect. And after some time, there was a pandemic. Then the Acharya, the Indian Acharya said, okay, now you burn it. So with fumigation, they could control the pandemic in an area of 50 kilometers for 3 months. It is written there. So there are many such things that we can find, and fumigation is very important. Even if today you go to any of the Chinese temples or monasteries, you will see how huge. Even sometimes these sticks are 3 feet and very thick, and they keep burning them all over. So burning incense sticks became popular, and there are many other things that we can talk about. So mantras were taken for different reasons, for prolonging life, to protect somebody from sickness. So here is the Gayatri mantra, which is so it's a part of the life of the Indians, Gayatri mantra. So here, that is why I'm showing you. This is written, this is transcribed in 4 different scripts. It is written according to the Chinese system, from top to bottom and from right to left. This is the Tibetan script, which is so easy for the Indians to read, because it is based on the Indian scripts. So Om, Bhur, Bhu, Va, Swa, Sa, Ta. So there are some errors here, but we don't go for the errors. We see what they were doing. And this is the Mongol language, this is the Chinese language, this is the Manchu language. So they were transcribing the mantras. For example, the most fascinating, when I talk about mantras, the most fascinating point is that people know about the Great Wall of China, but who knows, how many people in the world know that there are Sanskrit mantras written on the Great Wall of China in the 14th century, 1333 and 4. So it was written for protection of the state in 6 different scripts. So anybody who could read any script could read it, and it still exists. When I was there, it was so difficult for me to walk up that point of Great Wall of China to reach and see that. It was most amazing. You were asking me about the scholars. So when we talk about the historically recorded records about the Sanskrit teachers, there are 2, Kashyap, Matang and Dharmraksha. There is an inscription written in 65 AD, 65 AD, 1st century AD, when these 2 Sanskrit scholars reached China, that in the then capital Loyang was the capital. They were invited by the emperor. There was a mission sent by the emperor, and they took them back. So I have worked on that inscription, that how they reached and what they did there. So because they carried the Sanskrit manuscripts on white horses, loaded on white horses, and the emperor himself came to welcome them, and soon a special monastery was built for them to undertake the translation work, and that monastery is called White Horse Monastery, Po Masa. This is a horse there, and you can see the great scholar, Dr. Raghuvira, who brought all this knowledge, who was the first Indian who brought all kinds of this knowledge. And I am blessed to be walking on the footsteps of Acharya Raghuvira, because I have never met him, but I had the chance of writing his biography, being very close to his family. So, and here is his daughter. She was a professor in Banaras in the university. Here she is just 18 years girl, and assisting her father for a visit to China. And when we talk about Sanskrit manuscripts, we have to discuss with what kind of manuscripts are discovered from there. Something very interesting and very important is the legal and administrative documents written in Prakrit, the spoken Sanskrit, and in Kharoshthi, the local script. These are some manuscripts from different collections. I have mentioned all the names, given credit to all the museums wherever they are collected. And I must tell you that this kind of documents are preserved in our National Museum, also in New Delhi, but we don't have experts on Kharosthi, and there is not so much of I don't know why, but there is not much interest in our country to work on this kind of things. And there are many, many manuscripts written in Kharosthi in Sanskrit language. We are not working on them. This is a very famous manuscript.
One question for the previous slide. You said a lot of people destroyed, and because of the weather, dryness of the desert, they were preserved, below the sand. So till which point these invaders had gone, and what if at all you have come across that, who destroyed them, as in which ruler was there, and how did they reach till the Silk Route to destroy all the manuscripts?
On not only the manuscript, everything that was there in the monasteries was destroyed. I have seen so much of destruction during my journey to Silk Route. It is very sad, and there is a long history who invaded when. And I can just briefly tell you about a German expedition. There were many expeditions, as I said, from Sweden, from Germany, from France, from British India, from Japan, from Russia, because when there was when the discovery started, then there was a rush. Many archaeologists were rushing to them. So there is a description by a German archaeologist written in their book on Silk Route, that when the Germans reached there, the people in those cities, they told them that it's very late. They came very late to collect these manuscripts, because they said in one's village, people told them that two truckloads of Sanskrit manuscripts, they don't say Sanskrit, but they said 2 truckloads of manuscripts were immersed into river. And so much of destruction was there that there are 2 rivers, Kurunkash and Urunkash and Karankash, the 2 rivers. Village people used to sit with sieves to collect gold, because many of them statues were gold leafed and manuscripts were also gold leafed. So they used to go and to collect gold. So you can imagine that how much destruction was there. And only by reading, only by understanding, you can see how much destruction was there. Today, China is trying to preserve as its heritage, because it was not a part of China at that time. IGNCA has very clearly written that after crossing the Great Wall of China, there was nothing Chinese. It was all Indian script, Indian knowledge, Indian style, Indian art, Indian architecture, everything they were, because monasteries were the centers of all kinds of this knowledge. So destruction is, you can't calculate it. It's total destruction. Only nature saved it.
That is very sad, because it's not only India. I think people have suffered because of the invaders even beyond India. Maybe that is the reason Chinese people understand the power of their power, and how much it is required to subdue these people. Otherwise, how far they could have reached. So maybe that is a reason, that is how their approach is. One more question comes into my mind is, if the Buddhism was so prevalent there, do you see the impact of Buddhism in today's China while you were there?
Of course, people are by heart Buddhist.
No, but are they practicing on a daily basis?
Yeah, many. You go to a monastery, go to a temple, you will see how people are burning incenses and chanting prayers everywhere in China. But the problem is that they cannot declare themselves as what is their religion.
Yeah, as in, yeah, exactly. That is the reason I'm asking you that whether they are visibly practicing, as in, or
They
they.
are visibly, yes. Sometimes they are visibly practicing, sometimes no. Sometimes they from their homes only, but they
Yeah.
are by heart they are Buddhist.
Okay, so I wanted to understand that how much India has influenced their spiritual growth, because of course Buddhism went from India to towards China, but then over the period of time they tried to subdue it and they wanted to call something else. But apart from their practice, what about their studies? And today's, like for example, we are struggling to have our scriptural studies into our education system, which is not there. So what is their
You see,
current system is like education
current
system?
system, there are so many huge departments in China. Archaeologists and art historians, I have been meeting during my journeys, during my visits to China, and China gives a huge budget to them. They don't have to think what kind of budget do they need. It's already, they have a lot of facilities, lot of budget, enough of resources are given to them, and they can visit the places, they can document, they can preserve whatever they want, they can do. Number one question that you asked was about the spiritual growth of China. It is not just spiritual growth of China, it's all-round growth of China that is based on that there is an immense contribution of India to the Chinese life itself, not only spiritual. It's artistic, it's philosophical, it's political, even political, because the proof that you find from the best, the most important proof that talks itself is that before Buddhism reached there, they were building huge tombs. You know about the tomb built by Qingxi Huangdi in Xi'an. I have been to that tomb, and thousands of statues of soldiers and their chariots and many things are there. But the large tombs were built to show the power of an emperor. But as soon as Buddhism reached there, they shifted their energies from building tombs to temples, to monasteries and stupas and gouging out caves. And there was a new dimension of thinking, new dimension of political thought, new dimension was given to the political philosophy that an emperor, for example, an emperor can be compassionate. There is an equal right to everybody, because according to our philosophy, whether it's Hindu or Buddhist or Jain or any, we believe that everybody is born equally powerful. He has equal right to live. So the concept of equality, the concept of ahimsa was something new to them. There were many such concepts and they adopted them. There were so many kings were devout Buddhists, and they built so many huge monasteries. And
Which
as I
time
talked,
period are we talking about? When?
long
Which?
time, around more than 1,000 years it continued. More than that, maybe 1,300 years you can say. Up to 17th century, I will show you a part that was used by an emperor, Chinese emperor in 17th century, that is inscribed with Sanskrit mantras. I'll show you.
Okay, yeah. So, are we doing the same in the same presentation? Then please
Yeah,
continue.
same today. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
wanted to give you something interesting, na?
Yes,
Not
yes.
just theoretically and so heavy to understand. This is famous all over the world as Bhavar manuscript. What happened? There was somebody murdered the English merchant, and officer, his name was Bhavar. He was sent to trace the murderer, and suddenly he saw some kind of a structure. As soon as he opened the door, there was a cow inside standing, and as soon as it opened, the cow just collapsed. It fell down, and from the stomach of the cow, this manuscript was discovered. There are many questions, because Europeans could not understand why there are manuscripts in the stomach, put in the stomach of a cow, because cow is called Vaitarni in India, because it takes us far to the other shore. from this world to the other world. So what kind of manuscripts were there? They were about sickness, about there was on astrology and recovery from snake bite. So there are manuscripts like this. They're all written on birch bark, written in Brahmi script, and this was the first discovery of Sanskrit manuscript. And as soon as he came, because he was not a scholar, he didn't know Sanskrit, he couldn't read this script. So when he came back, he wrote an article, and there was so much of this news spread like a fire to many countries, and people rushed to this. So for many centuries, for quite some time, this Babar manuscript was thought to be, was accepted as the earliest manuscript. But later on, there were many such discoveries, and there are many types of manuscript that are found from there. This is the Pothi kind of a manuscript, purely in Indian style. This is the scroll kind of a manuscript, because in India, we don't write like this in scroll, on a scroll. Because we wrote on Pothi kind of manuscript, putting a string inside. So this is the Chinese style, or Japanese or Korean, or in all this in this Eastern Asian region, you find this. And this scroll can be folded like this. You can keep this like in a scroll form, or you can keep it in a like this, or in a book form. So when we talk about the earliest manuscripts discovered anywhere in the world, so they are Sanskrit manuscripts. This is a manuscript that I'm showing you. This is from China, from Central Asia, and this is from British Museum. This is another manuscript which is very popular among the academia in the world, because it's called Vaishali manuscript, because it was discovered from a village. Its name is Vaishali. Now it's a village in Pakistan, and this is the first manuscript on mathematics, mentioning about zero and symbols and many things. It's in Oxford in the Bodleian Library. There are Sadharma Pundarika Sutra. People in India also know about the Lotus Sutra, and there are many groups in India that follow the philosophy of Soka Gakkai, who are the followers of Sadharma Pundarika Sutra, the Lotus Sutra. So Lotus Sutra was one of the most famous sutras all over East Asia, and they were traveling. These manuscripts traveled from Silk Route and are discovered from there. It's in Gupta script. Another manuscript, so I'm not going into the details. The most beautiful manuscript of Lotus Sutra that is archived by Soka Gakkai. It's from Nepal. This is the statue of Kumarajiva. Kumarajiva is forgotten in India. He is not much known, because we don't tell our children about these things in our school text, that who was Kumarajiva. But you go to Japan, you go to China, people know about him. And this is a modern statue of Kumarajiva in outside the Kizil complex of caves. I have been to many of these caves. It was so difficult to walk up the hills. And Kumarajiva used to go to this place for meditation and work and do translation work. This is Dr. Raghuvira discovering Sanskrit inscriptions in Dunhuang caves. When we talk about the acharyas, we should know about a few very important who contributed immensely to the development, cultural development of East Asia, not only China, and they traveled via Silk Route. And this is Shubhakar Singh. You can see Deva Shubhakar Singh. It is a self-made portrait. This is the only portrait of an Indian acharya, self-made portrait and signed. Because in India, we don't have this, we never put our signatures, we never put our names, who did this, because there were no copyrights. Our rishis, our acharyas, our gurus, they never had any copyright on knowledge. So it's rarely found. As I said, that there is a Sanskrit inscription on the Great Wall of China. I'm showing you that from another place. That is another inscription, but the mantra is the same. It is chanted for the protection of the state. I have given this Nagari transcription also, so you can read Namo. Here also you can read Namo. You can see Siddham script that traveled from India to many countries all over the world. It is the mother of all the Indian scripts. It is the mother of all the Southeast Asian scripts. And there is such a big variety of Brahmi script that we find in China, because acharyas, they all had their own way of writing, and writings are different. So whatever they carried, the way they carried, the form in which they carried, from the area, the part of India from where they traveled, so it all has an impact, and we find all these kind of different kinds of Brahmi, or you can say Indian scripts, especially Brahmi, from different parts of China. And it's very important for us to have to study the history of epigraphy. It will be very helpful. Here I'm showing you just a Turkish dharani. Can you imagine that Turks were Buddhist? Whatever has been discovered before Babur, I'm again highlighting is that before Babur, the Turks were Buddhist. How and why do I say? The proof is that all the Turkish manuscripts are Buddhist. Nothing is Islamic. Only after Babur, only after Babur you find, only after Babur you don't find Buddhism among them. So this is another Sanskrit inscription, because you can see an emperor and a queen standing here, and they are offering something to the monastery. And here it is written that a king, I have given a transcription here, you can just read it. Narendrena Mayananda Singha, because his name was Ananda Singha, Singha Parakrama, because he was so powerful like a lion. Chatrena Ratna Dandena Pujito Narapungava. See how political philosophy was impressed by Buddhism, that he has inscribed this, that he has donated a chhatra and a ratna danda to a monastery. Pujito Narapungava, he is the king of kings, the topmost, and he's so powerful, and he's just bowing to Buddha. And the size of the Buddha is so huge in comparison to the size of the emperor. And here are the monks, you can see the disciples of the Buddhas, the bodhisattvas, the monasteries behind it. So this is from a place, I have myself gone to this place, and I have taken many photographs from here. This is called Bezeklik. When you go to Bezeklik, then again the Germans explorers have written that the people in the villages were told that if you don't destroy these paintings, then these paintings will become ghosts at night, and they will destroy you and your crops both. So you could see I could see the knife, marks of knife destroying the eyes and faces, especially because it was so huge. They could not destroy so much. So whatever they could destroy, the first thing they wanted to destroy was their eyes and their faces. Yeah. When we talk of Sanskrit on the Silk Road, there are some interesting points that I want to highlight. There is a book that is of conversation. Today, if you go to any country, suppose I go to Japan, I bought a small booklet with 100 sentences just to be there to ask small questions about taxi, about hotel, about food, or such small things. So these are called conversation books. They help people to travel if they are available in any country. So here I am showing you a Sanskrit book of conversation written in Khotanese script. But the most important point is what is written there. There are two monks communicating with each other. There is one Chinese and one Indian monk. So what they are talking. From where have you come? Have you come from Kashmir? That shows that Kashmir was so important that time. What texts have you brought? Which monasteries are you planning to visit? Have you fixed an appointment with the emperor? So fixing an appointment, because emperors used to meet these people, meet the acharyas, they used to give space in the imperial palaces so that they could stay with the emperors, and he could have enough time to discuss about philosophy, about different problems of his life, and running the country. So especially when Xuanzang, I would say, because people know about Xuanzang in India, that is why I'm saying, when Xuanzang reached, because when he came to China, he had to leave China secretly. He didn't announce that he's going to India. There were many problems. But when he returned, he took more than 600 scrolls of Buddhist texts, Sanskrit texts with him. When the emperor came, and the emperor invited him and met Xuanzang, then he asked, what are these texts meant for? Well, he said they are all meant for protection and well-being of the state and well-being of the people. He was so impressed by the philosophy that was taken by Hyunzang. So I'm not going into the details of what kind of studies did there, which monasteries did he visit, which acharyas under whom did he study. So it's all very detailed. So I was talking about a part of 17th century Emperor Ming Emperor Xuanzang. You can read, because it's so late, because it's 17th century. You can start reading from here. Swasti, Diva Swasti, Swasti Madhyandine. This is one side of the pot. I've shown you all the sides of the pot so that one can find what is written there easily and what can read there. So it is auspiciousness. The emperor is wishing for auspiciousness during the day, during the night, during the Madhya means the midday. So Divaswasti, may I have an auspicious day. Madhyandine swasti. So swasti means shubha. Shubha, auspiciousness, is a part of our life. It is a part of everybody's life, because if everything goes fine, everybody is peaceful, everybody is compassionate, everybody is helping each other, they are friendly, so there can be real development, there will be no mental stress. So to be rid of the mental stress, one needs of chanting such things. Ramayana from Tibet. Ramayana has traveled to the farthest corners, being the best of the epics that has ever been created in the world, and it has spread so far because of the ideals, because of the concepts. It is not a dharma, it is not a text of dharma. People call it a dharmic text, which is not. It is a cultural text. It's a social, it's meant for our society, it's meant for the politicians. Everybody needs it to have to have odd values. That is why it reached the farthest corners. People talk a lot about Ramayana in Southeast Asia, but you find Ramayana in Tibet, you find Ramayana in China, and in all these countries. It's amazing. So this is just one manuscript that I'm showing you of Ramayana from Tibet. This is another manuscript that I'm showing you because we are talking about Sanskrit. So manuscript becomes very important. This is a text that is called Kalpana Manditika. And you can see how fragmentary it is and how this is organized by Germans. How difficult it would have been to organize such tiny pieces of a manuscript. The work they are doing, the way they are working, you can just go there and see. I have seen in many collections, especially in Berlin, nobody was allowed to enter that room where these manuscripts are kept. I was taken specially to this, putting off my shoes outside, washing my hands. I could not touch any of the manuscripts. I was not allowed to do that. I was just shown these tiny manuscripts were so well preserved in between two glasses, and the way they are working. And the Japanese have specially developed a software to join them, because Japanese also have huge collections and they're working on these texts.
One question occurs in my mind is, these people are very advanced in technologies, and as you said that they are using their technology, but are they facing any internal political backlashing the way we are facing it? Like today, when
No,
the
no, no. A
government talks
scholar is
about
a scholar. A scholar is a scholar. Why there should be a backlash? No, no.
that's very wonderful. We need to inspire, get some inspiration from them, that how much are they doing to preserve their culture compared to what India and Indian government and then political scenario, how much, we are promoting and doing about it. Because I find it very difficult to make Indian political groups or even educational groups to understand the importance of preserving the manuscript, or working on, now it is very recently, just 2 3 years that we are talking about, and government is talking about developing the scholars who are ready to do some research based on scriptures. But if you see these examples, I'm really amazed to see that how much efforts are they putting.
And
So
in spite of that, we are not supporting them. When there was flood in Kashmir, I got messages from the Japanese scholars that they want to come and preserve the manuscript. They should not be destroyed because of flood, and in future, whatever. They were so sad that that they might have been destroyed by flood, but they were not. And after that, they didn't want a single penny from India. They said, we can come, we can give you a copy, we can just digitize them, preserve them. But I tried hard, I couldn't get them a permission, just a permission to digitize them.
that is really sad, that if we don't want to do it, at least we should allow others to do it for us.
They
They have
didn't
some
demand
great faith.
they didn't demand anything at all because they were very seriously working. One of them, Professor Karashima, I'll show you the work that he has done. He was such an excellent scholar. I'm coming to it. You
Yeah,
will
sure.
realize what kind of work are they doing, and still we are not just giving them support, just permission. I'm trying hard for the Kharoshti experts from China. They asked me, Dr. Shashibala, you are in Delhi, please get us permission from National Museum to work on the Kharoshti manuscript, because nobody is working in India, so we can do it. At least they should be digitized, and they are fading, so they should be saved. But I am not successful. See how beautiful it is. This is a manuscript that is written in gold. They used to make gold, silver, and ink of several gems to write these manuscripts. This is again from Dunhuang, from Central Asia. As I said, the Silk Route bifurcates once on one side on Kashgar and the other side at Dunhuang. And Oral Stein, who went from British India to these areas, he went to Silk Route and he went 4 times there. And whatever he brought was divided into 2 parts. Half of it went to, after independence, half of it went to London, and half is kept in the National Museum in New Delhi. But the work that they are doing is amazing. I just wanted to show you how people were busy making copies of the manuscript. Once any text was translated and it was agreed by the emperor or the empress or any very high level official that yes, this is acceptable, and all the monks coming from all over China, because China at the time was divided into northern and southern part of China. But monks, when there was any Buddhist project, then monks used to come from all over, and they used to until 9th, 10th century, they were making copies by hand. But after that, they started block printing, and once a text was copied or block printed, then they used to carry that back to their cities, to their monasteries. And Buddhism played a great role in uniting China, number one. Number two, this technology was developed block printing technology was developed, and paper industry and printing industry flourished because there was such a huge demand of paper and printing at that time. So it flourished because of Buddhism. And this is how they used to make blocks. And even now there are a huge number of inscriptions where people go, people can order to make a copy. Maybe I don't remember if I have that slide today or not, but people could go, people still can go. There is a place that is called Forest of Inscriptions. There are so many inscriptions, and they include a number of Sanskrit texts, and people can go there and have a stampage. So nothing is, they can pay, and even today. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you what kind of tiny pieces of manuscripts are discovered and how these people are working on them. See? And they are making a database. See how these manuscripts are photographed and how they look in original. Now I'm showing you another manuscript with many parts. See, this part, this is another, this is another, this is another. These are many small, tiny pieces of different fragments of a single manuscript. They are discovered from various collections and put together. See another. Seishi Karashima, he has done a lot of work on this kind of work. See, can you believe that one part is coming from one library, the other from the other library? See, this is how he has done. This one part is from the Russian Academy of Sciences and in St. Petersburg, and one is from the British Library. So in this age of technology, see the work they are doing. How can it be joined when there are two different pieces in different collections? And he was doing it. Unfortunately, he had a heart attack, and more than a year ago, he passed away. And he asked me, he requested me so much that the manuscripts originally they looked like this, but after some time they faded. See how difficult it becomes. But in India, in our National Museum, many manuscripts are fading, but nobody is taking that much care. He was ready to bring a team from Japan without any charge, just to give him a permission to preserve them by digitizing. This is a Sanskrit dictionary, Amarkosh and Pandit's grammar in Tibet. See, I'm just showing you a few things. This is yoga, a manuscript of yoga postures from Tibet. So there are hundreds, not hundreds, but thousands and thousands of manuscripts discovered from various parts by archaeologists, and they're preserved so well in a number of collections all over in different countries, not all over, but you can see a lot on the internet also they have put after digitizing, so that people can work on them. The scholars, I know so many of them, they have devoted the whole of their lives to study how Sanskrit contributed to the development of the whole of this area, including Central Asia, because the things were traveling via Central Asia to China, and from there they were taken to Korea and Japan. So it doesn't end here. It is just a bridge to talk about the immense contribution. You go to China, what they show you today, the monasteries. If you go as a tourist, what will you, the places you visit include monasteries, and these monasteries are based on the philosophy of the texts that were taken by the Indian acharyas or the Chinese acharyas to these countries. So their heritage, how much, nobody is calculating in India, how much of Chinese heritage has traveled via Silk Road to China. Silk Route was so important. All the small kingdoms, we call them small, but they're so, they were, you see, when I was talking about Kumarajiva, Kumarajiva became so famous when a Chinese emperor came to know about him. He sent an army of 70,000 soldiers to capture and bring Kumarajiva to China so
One.
that he could work there. He could translate the text. Such was the huge was the demand of the people.
Where was Kumar Jiva was? I mean, where was
He
he?
was son of a Kashmiri Pandit and a princess of a small kingdom, Kucha.
Oh,
He
really?
did not know Chinese at that time. He knew Sanskrit. He came to Kashgar to study Vedas. This is the only reference in the whole of history that Kashgar was a center of learning for Vedas.
That is so fascinating to know that even in the places near China or within China.
Today it is a part of China. It is a part of Xinjiang region of China. It was not at that time a part of China.
So what was what kingdom they were there?
So many kingdoms, Kucha, Kizil, Khotan, there were many.
So what do you see now today? How is today's China when it comes to Vedic scriptures and following on rituals?
It depends where are you going and whom you are meeting. If you go to Beijing, there are people look so Western. They are so busy in their lives, in their professions. But if you go to the monasteries all around Beijing, oh, we can understand the soul of Beijing is still Buddhist. So many people visit them. So many people offer incense. They bow so many times. They offer prayers. I have made so much of documentation from these monasteries, and the number of monasteries that were built over a period of more than 1,000 years. That shows that this is their heritage that was built by the Chinese themselves.
So what is the
Today,
difference?
if you go to Kashgar like places, as I said earlier, that Kashgar has nothing. Whatever you find is there just in the archaeological sites, some museums. I was so fascinated to see Brahmi manuscripts on the Silk Road. Because
Oh,
when we talk of Brahmi in India, we talk only about Ashoka's inscriptions.
yes.
And later developments, of course, yes. But in China, I could see so many manuscripts in different collections in museums. They're all in museums now because the monasteries are all destroyed. You see nothing. If you go to Khotan, which was a huge center of Indian culture, full of monasteries. So many acharyas were going from India and coming from China and other parts of the world, even from Iran. So they were working together. They were huge centers. But what is there today? It's all a modern city. Only museums you can visit. And when you meet people in villages, when you meet people as friends, when you meet people as formally, when you meet people as a scholar, then everywhere you find a difference. When you meet somebody as a friend, then they are different. Then they open up. They tell about their own heart. They open their heart, you can say. For example, in Xi'an, we hired a girl for as an interpreter because in China it's difficult to visit places, and so you need an interpreter. So I just asked him without any intention that, are you Buddhist? She said, my parents are Buddhist, but not me. I said, okay, how you are not a Buddhist and your parents are Buddhist? She said, because my parents said, say if you don't have time to chant the sutras, then mantras, then you can't be a Buddhist. I said, but Buddha never said so. I am a Hindu. I may have time for puja. I may have time to visit a temple or may not, but I am a Hindu. I'm a Hindu. It doesn't matter if I have time or not. She said, I'm so busy, I don't have time. And then the whole day she was with us, and she asked me hundreds and hundreds of questions. The whole day she was asking, and she said, these are the questions of youth in China, but we don't find any answers. We don't have people to answer them, to reply them, so that they can understand. They are so inquisitive, but their thirst is not satisfied. So from our side, We have to tell them. There are so many things they want to know. And by the evening when she left us, oh, she said, oh man, I will be Buddhist again.
That is very interesting. So what is the
That means
difference
from
between
heart,
Buddhism?
yeah, from her
Yeah.
heart, she was Buddhist. This is a very clear point. No?
True.
I did not want to say, I didn't say anything. I had no intention. I was just asking questions. She was asking questions and I was replying.
So what is the difference between Buddhism followed in China and Japan and Korea? Even in Korea, I've been to Korea, Seoul, and I see that, I mean, they want to remain Buddhist, but then there is a lots of pressure from other people to convert them. And they are following the same dilemma, and they are following the same stress of accepting the new religion, or whether they should accept or they should not accept. So what is the difference between the Buddhism in all these countries?
These are two different questions.
Yeah, these are two.
One is the pressure.
Yeah.
Because modernism, Westernism, they have become synonyms. If you become a Christian, you look modern. If you visit a monastery, you look, oh, you are an old person, you follow traditions, so you are not modern. So westernized mind becomes modern. So that is a problem. Then number two is the pressure because of power. People who hold power, if they are not Buddhist, then they put pressure on others to convert. It is a big problem in Korea. It is not that big. It is not that in Japan or China. In China, the problem is different because of the politics. The political system is such that you cannot say, that you cannot declare that you are a Buddhist. Then you asked about difference. Buddhism is different everywhere. If you go to any Southeast Asian country, it is different. Because we are the people, we are open-minded people, and we did not invade. We did not crush the indigenous, the local culture. We did not destroy the local culture. We just absorbed it. Wherever Buddhism went, it went as with the force of assimilation. So we absorb the ideas, we absorb their deities, we absorb their concept, we absorb their philosophy, and combined it, and there was no conflict. For example, there is no conflict about there was no conflict among the Taoists or Buddhists, and there was no conflict among the Shintos and the Buddhists. In Japan, people even today they say a person is born as a Shinto and he dies as a Buddhist, because there are rituals at a childbirth in Shinto monastery, in Shinto temple or monastery, and there are rituals in a Buddhist monastery at the time of death. Like we perform Shraddha, they also go, they have special places to put the remains of their ancestors. I have so many mesmerizing memories from these places, that how they believe in both together without any conflict, because Indians never crushed anybody. So that is why it is different everywhere. And there are so many sects and subsects developed on the basis of the philosophy of different texts. Some texts, for example, martial arts is so common. It is thought that it is Chinese martial arts. No, it is actually, originally, it is Indian martial arts that was taken by Bodhidharma, and he took the Marma therapy. He was an expert of Siddha Ayurveda. So he was an expert in many areas, but he was an expert on Dhyana also. So the philosophy of Dhyana, which he believed, then he said, we don't need any texts. What is more important? To be internalized, to be focused, to meditate and realize whatever you realize is the truth. So that is why the different texts, and then there are no texts also. So different sects and subsects, they look all different. Even the robes taken by the monks are different in color. They can be, because we are open-minded people and we believe whatever one thinks is right. Hridayastham bhavaya devam. What is deva? The Bhagwan, the power, the divine power resides in me, myself, in my heart, in my mind, in my soul. And whatever I realize is true. So everybody is free to think. We don't say, Buddhists don't say, you read Saddhan Pundarika Sutra, you read Vimalkirti Nirdesha Sutra, you read this. No, no, no. Whatever you like, you can follow. Whatever you like, you can chant. So that is why there is so much of difference. And Buddha is manifested in so many forms that I had to write a book on it. That people used to ask me, Dr. Shashibala, Buddha was one, why there are so many forms? So I did a book. Then this the same question is with Bodhisattvas. I have done all the research on Bodhisattvas, that there are how many types are Bodhisattvas and why. Then I am doing another book. I'm in the final stage of India's contribution to Chinese development. It's not just spiritual. It's an all-round development of a country that in which India has contributed immensely, but we Indians do not know about it.
That is so wonderful. Of course, we are now running out of time. So I think with this, I would like to end the session. Do you have to say anything as the closing remarks? Because your presentation was really interesting. Even I came to know so many new facts that India has contributed to the Chinese growth. I mean, the way you are saying, it's really wonderful. So anything as a closing remarks?
My idea is that at least we should have some study, we should have some facilities, we should have some awareness about all this. There is no awareness in India that Gayatri mantra is there, Om chanting is done by, there are so many forms of Om, there are so many Sanskrit mantras, how Sanskrit contributed. Then we can, you see, we have to be educated. Yes, we have a good character. Okay. We have many good qualities, many good education. Everything is okay. We have very good level of living, but we have to be proud Indians. We are not. We are slave Indians.
That is so true.
So to be slaves, we can never be happy if we have a slave mentality that we were invaded by this, by that. And we are taught the history of invasions most of the time in our schools, but the schools, the education system should absorb these things. I'm ready to give them bit by bit, according to a level of a student from first standard onwards. I'm doing it with my grandchildren, and they love it so much. When my granddaughter, she was in a problem that whether she should take up French as a foreign language or she can take Sanskrit. I said, no, you will take Sanskrit. Then what I did to inspire her to teach, to be proud of learning Sanskrit, is that I took the numerals 1 to 10 from Sanskrit, from Russian, from French, from German, and I made a table. I said, see, all these are made, they have come out of Sanskrit. Just read them. Read when a child studies alphabet, when he starts writing, at that time, at least we can show the Southeast Asian scripts. Oh, this was the Indian script when it was called Brahmi, Gupta, and this is how it is Sharda, and we can just show them. Just show them. Don't teach them Sharda. You don't have to teach them any script, but just to show them that yes, this Southeast Asian script is developed on the basis of Pallava script. You show both Pallava and the South Indian. So that is how we can just give them. We can at least sow seeds into the minds of the tender minds, you can say.
That is so
this
much.
should be done to have proud Indians in future. We can have educated Indians, we can have developed Indians, everything is fine. But to make them proud is very important.
Very important. That is very true. Thank you.
Everyone is a global citizen. You see, everyone is a global citizen.
But they, yeah, in India, this concept of global citizen is something different only. For them, being global means give up everything on their own culture and learn something else,
Yes,
and that's how they become global, which is not
yes,
the way actually it is supposed to be, and it is not the way others take it as a global citizen. They are well versed with the world on the basis of their own, on their own
yes.
culture. I mean, their foundation is their own culture, and on that they build other things. But in India, the foundation itself is very weak. So anyway, thank you so much. I think we are
Thank
running out
you.
of time.
Thank you,
Thank you for your
Vaishali ji.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Namaste.
namaste.
Question?